GTX. GTX stands for Giga Texel Shader Extreme. GTX is Nvidia's older GPU lineup and the one that built the foundation for mainstream PC gaming as we know it today. GTX cards have no ray tracing, no AI upscaling, and no fancy features. They are purely traditional rasterization performance, which means the GPU calculates graphics the old school way and nothing else. The most iconic GTX generation was the GTX 10 series. This includes the GTX 1050, GTX 1060, GTX 1070, and the GTX 1080. These launched in 2016 and became some of the best-selling GPUs in history. The GTX 1060 was the most used GPU on Steam for multiple years in a row. That alone tells you how good the value was. After that came the GTX 16 series with the GTX 1650 and GTX 1660. No ray tracing again, but solid 1080p gaming at a very affordable price point. GTX cards also introduced the Ti and Super suffix system. Ti means a more powerful version of the same card. Super means a card that sits between the base model and the Ti in terms of performance and price. Nvidia still uses these suffixes today across all their lineups. If you are still running a GTX card right now, it still works, but driver support will eventually be dropped and modern AAA games will start struggling on these cards more and more over time. RTX 20 series. RTX stands for Ray Tracing Texel Extreme. The RTX 20 series launched in 2018 and was the first time Nvidia brought real-time ray tracing to regular consumer graphics cards. Ray tracing simulates how light actually works in the real world. Accurate reflections, realistic shadows, and proper global illumination all calculated in real time instead of being approximated by the GPU the traditional way. The RTX 20 series includes the RTX 2060, RTX 2070, RTX 2080, and the flagship RTX 2080 Ti. These cards also introduced DLSS for the first time. DLSS stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling. It uses an AI model to upscale a lower resolution image to look like a higher resolution one. So instead of rendering at 4K natively, the GPU renders at 1440p and AI makes it look like 4K. Better frame rates, similar visual quality. But when RTX 20 series launched, most games did not support ray tracing yet. And when you did turn it on, frame rates dropped significantly. So while the technology was impressive, the actual real-world value was disappointing for most buyers. The RTX 20 series is remembered more as the generation that introduced these features rather than the one that perfected them. RTX 30 series. The RTX 30 series launched in 2020, and this is where Nvidia really delivered on the promise of RTX. The performance jump over the RTX 20 series was massive, and the pricing was far more competitive. The RTX 3060 became the go-to card for 1080p and 1440p gaming. The RTX 3070 delivered RTX 2080. Ti-level performance at literally half the price. The RTX 3080 became the gold standard for 4K gaming, and the RTX 3090 was basically a workstation card sold to consumers, with 24 gigabytes of VRAM that content creators and AI researchers loved. DLSS 2.0 also came with the RTX 30 series, and it was a massive improvement. Games started adopting it widely, and suddenly ray tracing plus DLSS together actually made sense as a combination. The only problem was availability. The RTX 30 series launched during the crypto mining boom and the global chip shortage of 2020 and 2021. Cards were selling for 2 to 3 times their original price on the secondary market. Most people could not buy one at launch even if they wanted to. But now in 2025 and 2026, used RTX 30 series cards are available at very reasonable prices. The RTX 3060 Ti and RTX 3070 in particular are some of the best value used GPUs you can buy right now. RTX 40 series. The RTX 40 series launched in late 2022 and brought another major performance leap. But this time it also came with pricing that made a lot of people very angry. The RTX 4080 launched at $1,200. The RTX 4090 launched at $1,600. Even the RTX 4070 was seen as overpriced compared to what the RTX 3070 launched at just 2 years earlier. Nvidia was criticized heavily for this, and the community pushed back loud. But in terms of raw performance, the RTX 40 series is genuinely impressive. The RTX 4090 is so powerful that it remained the fastest consumer GPU available for over 2 years after launch. It runs any game at 4K maximum settings with ray tracing at frame rates no other card can match. The RTX 40 series also introduced DLSS 3 with frame generation. Instead of just upscaling the image, frame generation uses AI to create entirely new frames between existing rendered frames. This can nearly double your frame rates in supported games. But it only works on RTX 40 series cards, and above which frustrated RTX 30 series owners greatly. Nvidia then released a super refresh midway through the generation. The RTX 4070 Super, RTX 4070, Ti Super, and RTX 4080 Super all offered better value than the original launch models and became the recommended options for most buyers looking at the RTX 40 generation. RTX 50 series. The RTX 50 series launched in early 2025 and is built on the brand new Blackwell architecture. The flagship RTX 5090 is the most powerful consumer GPU ever made. It uses up to 575 watts of power at peak load, which is more than what most entire PC builds consume. It is built for 4K and even 8K gaming and is also used heavily by AI researchers, machine learning engineers, and professional content creators. The RTX 5080 and RTX 5070 are the more realistic options for high-end gamers who want top-tier performance. The RTX 50 series also introduced DLSS 4 with multi-frame generation. Instead of generating one extra AI frame like DLSS 3 did, multi-frame generation can now generate up to 3 AI frames for every single real rendered frame. So in theory, your frame rate gets multiplied by 4. In practice, the gains in supported titles are very real and very noticeable. RTX 50 mid-range. Now, a lot of people assume the RTX 50 series is only for rich enthusiasts, but Nvidia also released mid-range and budget options to target mainstream buyers. The RTX 5070 sits in the high mid-range category and delivers RTX 4090 level performance in some workloads at a fraction of the price. For 1440p, gaming, it is one of the best options available right now. RTX 5060 Ti and RTX 5060 are aimed directly at the 1080p and 1440p mainstream market. The RTX 5060 Ti in particular launched with 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which is double what the RTX 4060 Ti had, and something buyers had been demanding for years. And if you are still on a GTX card wondering whether it is time to upgrade, yes, it is absolutely time.